I want you to hear me clearly today. There is a truth that we must confront, a truth that we must accept, and it is this: love is not what we often make it out to be. You see, we live in a culture, a world, where we are deceived into thinking that love is all about feelings, affection, and constant attention. It's easy for us to believe that love is about being constantly affirmed, always in the spotlight, always being pursued and adored. But I want to tell you today, if He loves you, He will ignore you. Now, I know this sounds strange. It's not what you're used to hearing. But I want you to hear it with open ears, because this truth could change everything in your life. The love of the one who truly cares for you, the love of the one who truly wants what is best for you, is not a love that will leave you in your comfort zone. The love that is true, that is enduring, is not always the one that indulges you, but the one that challenges you, that pushes you towards something greater than your own desires. We must understand this. Love is not about keeping you happy at all times, giving you what you want, catering to your every whim. That's not love, that's selfishness. If we are to understand true love, if we are to understand the love that is worth having, then we must understand that it does not always look the way we expect it to. It does not always act the way we expect it to. And often, true love, real love, will seem like it's ignoring you. And in that moment of seeming neglect, we have to remember that it is precisely in those moments when love is shaping us, molding us, and making us into something greater than we could have ever imagined. You see, there are times when love knows that you are too weak, too self-centered, too prideful, too immature to handle what you think you need. And in those moments, the one who loves you will not give in to your demands. He will not indulge your selfish desires. He will not entertain your fleeting whims. No, He will be silent. He will withdraw. And it is in that silence, in that apparent absence, that He is doing the most important work in your life. He is teaching you to trust. He is teaching you to wait. He is teaching you to be patient. He is teaching you that your feelings are not your gods, that your emotions do not dictate your worth or your value. He is teaching you to stand on something deeper than the shifting sands of what you think you deserve. You must learn this. The love that ignores you, the love that seems distant at times, is the love that is most concerned with your growth, your maturity, your eternal well-being. It is the love that is more concerned with your soul than with your temporary comfort. How many of us have lived our lives chasing after what we want, running after what we think we need, only to find ourselves empty? How many of us have fallen into the trap of believing that if we don't have the attention, the affection, the approval of others, then we are not truly loved? How many of us have equated love with constant validation and constant affirmation? But I tell you, that is a lie. The world has deceived you. The world has told you that love is about having your every need fulfilled, your every desire catered to. The world has lied to you by telling you that if you're not constantly getting what you want, then you are being abandoned, neglected, forgotten. And yet, in the midst of this noise, in the midst of this confusion, the true love of God, the love that transcends our understanding, is often silent. It's often quiet. It's often waiting for us to mature, for us to grow, for us to realize that the love that we crave cannot be found in the approval of others or the fleeting pleasures of this world. There are times when the silence of God, the seeming distance of God, is not evidence of His absence, but of His intense love for you. He knows what you need more than you do. He knows where you're headed. He knows that if you continue to follow your own desires, if you continue to pursue what you think is best for you, you will destroy yourself. He will allow you to be ignored, to be left wanting, because He loves you too much to leave you in your sin, in your selfishness, in your immaturity. He loves you too much to give you what you want, when what you want is going to lead you astray. Now let me make this clear. God's silence is not abandonment. His withdrawal is not neglect. His absence is not evidence that He does not care. No. God loves you so much that He will not leave you as you are. He will allow you to experience what feels like silence, what feels like absence, so that you might come to the end of yourself and learn to trust in him alone. You see, we are addicted to the instant, to the immediate gratification of our desires. But the love of God is not instant. The love of God is not about satisfying your temporary worldly desires. No, his love is about your sanctification, about your transformation, about your eternal soul. And sometimes that means he will ignore you in order to draw you closer to himself. I want you to understand this today, because there are many of you sitting here and you are struggling. You are struggling with your relationship with God. You are struggling with your walk with him, and you feel as though he is distant, that he is ignoring you. And I tell you today, he is not ignoring you. He is loving you. He is teaching you. He is growing you. And he will not give you what you want until you learn to trust in him. There are times when we want answers and we want them now. There are times when we feel that God should explain himself, that he should reveal his plans to us, that he should show us the way. But we must remember this: God is not obligated to explain himself to us. God does not owe us an explanation for his ways. He is sovereign, he is wise, and he is loving. And sometimes he allows us to struggle so that we might learn to rely on him more fully. Sometimes he ignores us because he knows that we cannot see the bigger picture, that we do not understand the purpose behind the pain, the silence, the difficulty. And so he will allow us to feel ignored, to feel as though we are walking alone, so that we might come to a place of brokenness, so that we might come to a place where we can say, Lord, I trust you even when I don't understand. I trust you even when I can't hear your voice. I trust you even when I don't see your hand at work in my life. It is in those moments of trust, in those moments of surrender, that we learn what true love really is. It is not about getting everything we want. It is not about being coddled or pampered. It is about trusting in the goodness of the one who knows what we need more than we do, and who loves us enough to give us what we need, even when it doesn't feel like love. Do you want to know the greatest expression of love? It is not about a constant stream of affection. It is not about getting what we want when we want it. The greatest expression of love is that he would ignore us, that he would allow us to feel the absence of his immediate presence, so that we might learn to seek him, to trust him, to rely on him. The greatest expression of love is that he would withdraw for a season, so that we might grow in maturity, so that we might learn to desire him more than anything else, so that we might learn to walk by faith and not by sight. And I want you to understand, the love that God has for you is not a love that is shallow, that is fleeting, that is conditional upon your performance. No, his love is deep. His love is eternal. His love is not based on what you can give to him, but on what he has already given to you. And it is that love that will change you. It is that love that will mold you into the person he has created you to be. And sometimes that love will look like silence. It will look like absence. But I promise you, in those moments, he is working in ways you cannot see, in ways you cannot understand, to make you more like his son. So I say to you today, if he loves you, he will ignore you. He will not give you what you want when you want it, because his love is more concerned with your eternal good than with your temporary pleasure. His love is more concerned with your soul than with your feelings. And in the moments when you feel abandoned, when you feel ignored, remember that his silence is not a sign of his absence, but of his intense love for you. He is doing a work in you that will last forever. And that is the greatest act of love you could ever receive. So trust him. Trust his love, and trust that in his silence he is not far away. He is drawing you closer to himself than you could ever imagine. He loves you too much to leave you in your sin, in your comfort, in your immaturity. He loves you enough to ignore you so that you might grow in the fullness of his grace and his truth. Let that be your comfort. Let that be your hope. The love that truly cares for you will not always cater to your immediate desires. Sometimes the apparent absence or silence from God or someone who loves you is a form of discipline meant to help you grow, mature, and trust more deeply in what is best for your eternal well-being, rather than your temporary satisfaction. True love is not about indulging your fleeting whims, but about nurturing your character and spiritual development. In moments of seeming neglect, love is actively working to refine you, to teach patience, trust, and reliance on something deeper than emotions or immediate desires. When God seems distant or silent, it's not a sign of neglect, but of his profound love for you. He is more concerned with your long-term spiritual growth and transformation than with satisfying your short-term desires. Trusting him in those moments of absence is where true maturity and a deeper relationship with him are forged. True love is not always what we expect it to be. We have been conditioned by the world around us to believe that love is all about affirmation, about constant attention, and about always being surrounded by affection. We imagine love to be something that is constantly present, that never leaves us, that always gives us what we want when we want it. We expect love to be the thing that continually reassures us, that constantly reminds us that we are worthy, that we are valued. Let me tell you something. True love often involves silence and absence. I know that might sound strange, even offensive to some of you. How can love be silent? How can love be absent? But the reality is, love is not about constant presence. It is about what that presence does when it is there and what it accomplishes in the moments when it seems to withdraw. When love seems silent, when it seems distant, it is not because love is absent, but because love is working. It is easy for us to look at the absence of someone's affection or attention and feel like we have been abandoned. It's easy for us to feel neglected, to feel like we are not loved, because we are not constantly being told that we are precious, that we are desired. But let's stop for a moment and think about what love truly is. Love, at its core, is not about us, it's about the other. It's about the one whom we love. True love is selfless. It is not selfish. It is not about our emotions, our wants, our immediate desires. And that's where we get confused. We have become so used to equating love with how good we feel in the moment, with how constantly affirmed we feel, that we forget that love is about something deeper. Love is about transformation. It's about helping the other person become the best version of themselves, the person they were always meant to be. It's about growth, it's about challenge, and sometimes it's about giving someone the space to learn what they need to learn. Let's take a moment to think about the nature of God's love. God is love, and his love is not always expressed in ways that make us feel good in the moment. If you're a parent, you understand this better than anyone. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your child is to let them struggle, to allow them to experience moments of discomfort, because in those moments they grow, they learn, they mature. And this process of growth requires silence. It requires absence. It requires the parent to step back and let the child figure things out, even though it's painful to watch. In the same way, God's love is not always about giving us what we want when we want it. God's love is not about constant affirmation and attention. Sometimes God's love is expressed in silence. Sometimes he withdraws, not because he doesn't care, but because he knows that we need to grow. He knows that we cannot develop in the ways we need to develop if we are always in the spotlight, always receiving constant attention and praise. The Bible speaks of God's discipline as an expression of his love. In Hebrews 12:6 it says, "For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives." Discipline is not easy, it's not comfortable, and it often feels like silence. When we go through trials, when we experience pain, when it seems like God is not speaking to us, we can easily interpret that as a sign that he has forgotten us. But the truth is, he is teaching us something. He is shaping us, refining us. And that process often involves him stepping back and allowing us to experience the consequences of our actions or the struggles that we need to face in order to grow. Silence in love is not neglect, it's a tool for transformation. When someone who loves you is silent, it is often because they understand that what you need most is not a constant reassurance of their love, but the space to grow, to become who you were meant to be. And this is where the true depth of love comes in. True love doesn't just give you what you want in the moment. True love doesn't just feed your ego, doesn't just constantly validate you. No, true love challenges you. It pushes you beyond your comfort zone. It leads you to places you may not want to go, but it's there to teach you, to shape you, to make you stronger, wiser, and more like the person you were created to be. This is why God sometimes seems silent in our lives. It's not that he has abandoned us. It's that he loves us too much to just give in to our demands, to give us everything we ask for in our times of weakness or impatience. There are moments in our lives when we beg God for answers, when we plead with him to make things clear, when we want him to move and act according to our desires. But God knows that sometimes the most loving thing he can do is to remain silent. He knows that we need to wait, to develop patience, to learn how to trust him even when we don't see him at work. He knows that if he always gave us what we wanted immediately, we would never grow in the way we need to. Love's silence is also about teaching us to lean on something deeper than our emotions. Our feelings are fickle. They come and go. They are influenced by circumstances, by people, by fleeting thoughts. But true love does not depend on feelings. True love is rooted in something unshakable, something eternal. And God wants us to learn to trust in that unshakable love, even when it feels like we are walking through the dark. His silence is not a reflection of his absence, but of his deeper love for us. A love that is not concerned with short-term emotions, but with our long-term growth and transformation. We all know what it feels like to be in a place of silence, to feel like we are standing alone, to feel like God has turned away from us. But it's in those moments that we are called to trust more deeply. When we feel like we're in the dark, when we feel abandoned or neglected, we are faced with a choice. Will we continue to believe in God's love even when we can't hear his voice or see his hand at work? Or will we let our emotions lead us to doubt and despair? Love's silence is a test. It's a test of trust. It's a test of whether we can rely on something deeper than what we see and feel in the moment. Can we trust in the character of the one who loves us even when we don't understand what he's doing? Can we trust that his silence is not a sign of his neglect, but of his deep concern for our growth and well-being? I want you to understand this. Silence is not the absence of love. It is often the deepest expression of it. It is in silence that we are forced to confront ourselves. It is in silence that we are forced to let go of our need for constant validation and attention. It is in silence that we are invited to discover the true depths of our relationship with the one who loves us. To learn to lean on him not for what he gives us in the moment, but for who he is. In your walk with God, you will experience seasons of silence. There will be times when it feels like he has withdrawn, when it seems like he's not answering your prayers, when you can't sense his presence in the way you want to. But in those moments, I urge you to hold on to what you know to be true. God's love for you does not depend on your feelings. His silence does not mean he doesn't care. His silence is a call to deeper trust, to greater maturity, and to a more intimate relationship with him. True love, then, often involves silence. It is not a silence of abandonment, but a silence that is pregnant with meaning, a silence that is shaping us, testing us, preparing us for something greater than we can see in the moment. When you feel like you are being ignored, when you feel like God is distant, remember this: he is not absent. He is there, working in ways you cannot yet understand, teaching you, refining you, and preparing you for what's to come. Trust in that love. And know that it is in the silence that you are being drawn closer to the heart of the one who loves you more than you can ever imagine. Love, when understood in its truest form, is not about our comfort or our immediate happiness. It's easy for us to think of love as something that always makes us feel good, that always satisfies our desires, that always caters to our whims. The world tells us that love is about finding someone who will make us feel special all the time, who will give us constant affirmation and attention. But true love, the love that lasts and endures, is not about fulfilling our temporary desires. It's about growth, about transformation, about making us the people we were meant to be, not just the people we want to be. Too often we equate love with comfort. We think that love should always make us feel good, that it should always be easy, that it should never challenge us, never stretch us. But when we look at the deeper, more profound expressions of love, we see something different. Love is not primarily concerned with our temporary happiness. It is concerned with our long-term growth, with shaping us into the people we were meant to become, with helping us realize our potential. True love will not leave us in our complacency, will not allow us to remain stagnant, will not cater to our every comfort if it means we remain unchanged. Love pushes us beyond the boundaries of our comfort zones, calling us to grow, to learn, and to develop in ways that we might not want to at first, but in ways that are ultimately for our good. It does not settle for the easy path. It is willing to take the harder road if it means that we will become better, stronger, more whole, more like who we were created to be. When we think of love prioritizing growth over comfort, we can see this reflected in many different aspects of life, but none more profoundly than in the relationship we have with God. God's love for us is not primarily about making us feel good in the moment. His love for us is about shaping us, refining us, molding us into the image of His Son. And this process of growth often involves discomfort. It often involves stretching us, testing us, pushing us beyond the limits of what we think we can endure. But this discomfort is not a sign that God does not love us. In fact, it is the very evidence of His love, because He knows that growth and transformation are impossible without some level of challenge, some level of difficulty, some level of discomfort. Think about how a parent loves their child. A parent who truly loves their child will not simply give them whatever they want, will not simply cater to their every desire, especially when those desires are not good for them. A good parent knows that sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes love means allowing a child to experience discomfort, to face challenges, to struggle, because it is in those moments that the child learns important lessons about life, about themselves, about the world around them. A parent who loves their child will prioritize their growth over their comfort. They will give them the tools to become strong, independent, and wise, even if it means the child does not always feel happy in the moment. In the same way, God loves us enough to prioritize our growth over our immediate comfort. There are moments when we cry out for God to take away the pain, to remove the struggle, to end the discomfort. We beg Him to make things easier for us, to restore our comfort, and yet God, in His wisdom and love, sometimes allows the pain to remain. He allows the discomfort to continue because He knows that it is in these moments that we are being shaped, that we are being refined, that we are being made more into the image of Christ. We may not understand why God allows us to go through difficult seasons. We may not understand why He doesn't immediately take away our suffering, why He doesn't answer our prayers the way we want Him to, but we must trust that His love is always working for our good, even in the most difficult of circumstances. His love for us is not about giving us what we think we want or need in the moment. It is about growing us, about transforming us, about making us more like Him. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 12:6 that the Lord disciplines the one He loves. Discipline is not easy. It's not comfortable. Discipline is a form of correction, a form of training that is meant to produce growth and maturity. And when God disciplines us, it is not because He is angry with us. It is not because He is punishing us for something we've done wrong. No, His discipline is an expression of His love. It is a sign that He cares enough about us to mold us into the people we are meant to be. And just like the parent who allows their child to experience discomfort in order to teach them valuable lessons, God allows us to experience discomfort in order to teach us to rely on Him, to grow in faith, to trust in His goodness, even when things are hard. Think about the way gold is refined. Gold is put through a process of intense heat in order to remove the impurities, to make it pure. The heat is uncomfortable, it's painful, it doesn't feel good, but it is necessary in order for the gold to be transformed into something beautiful, something valuable. In the same way, God uses the heat of life, the struggles, the trials, the challenges, as a way to refine us, to purify us, to make us into something beautiful and valuable. And just like gold cannot be refined without heat, we cannot be refined without the challenges and difficulties that God allows in our lives. It is through these struggles that we learn to grow, to trust, and to become more like the person God created us to be. We may not always like the process. We may not always understand why we must go through hardship, why we must endure pain, why we must experience discomfort, but we must trust that God's love is always working for our good, even in those moments of struggle. We must trust that He is using the difficulties in our lives to shape us, to refine us, to teach us to rely on Him more fully. Sometimes, in our desire for comfort, we miss the point of what God is doing in our lives. We are so focused on getting relief from our discomfort that we forget that God's goal for us is not our comfort, but our growth. His love is not about making us happy in the moment. It is about making us holy, about making us strong, about making us strong, about making us strong. And while that process may be uncomfortable, it is ultimately for our good and for His glory. When we understand this, we can begin to look at our struggles differently. We can begin to see them as opportunities for growth, as moments when God is shaping us, refining us, making us into the people He has called us to be. Instead of focusing on how uncomfortable the process is, we can focus on how God is using it to build our faith, to increase our dependence on Him, to help us become more like Him. Love that prioritizes growth over comfort is not a love that seeks to avoid pain at all costs. It is a love that recognizes that pain, discomfort, and struggle are sometimes the very tools that God uses to mold us, to refine us, to teach us the lessons we need to learn in order to become the people we were meant to be. It is a love that does not shy away from difficulty, but embraces it as a necessary part of the process of transformation. As we go through life, we will encounter many challenges, many moments of discomfort, many seasons of struggle, and in those moments, we will be faced with a choice. Will we choose comfort, or will we choose growth? Will we demand that God make our lives easy, or will we trust that He is using the difficulties to shape us, to make us more like Him? Will we focus on the temporary pain, or will we focus on the long-term growth that God is bringing about in our lives? True love is not about seeking comfort. It is about seeking growth, seeking transformation, seeking the fullness of what God wants to do in our lives. And when we understand that love prioritizes growth over comfort, we can begin to embrace the challenges, the discomfort, and the struggles of life as opportunities for God to refine us, to mold us, and to make us into the people we were always meant to be. When we speak of God's love, we often think of it as something deeply comforting, a kind of affection that wraps around us in times of distress and fills our hearts with peace. It is true that God's love is comforting, but it is also far more than that. His love is not just a feeling or an emotional response. It is a calling. It is a call to trust, and more than that, a call to maturity. The love of God, when truly understood, is not about indulging our desires or always making us feel good in the moment. It is a love that challenges us, that invites us into something deeper and more profound than mere comfort. It calls us to grow, to mature, and to learn to trust Him in ways that shape our very character and draw us closer to His heart. In the beginning, when we first come to God, we may approach Him out of a sense of need, a desire for relief, or a hope that He will take away our pain. This is not a wrong motivation. God, in His mercy, meets us where we are, responding to our cries, and offering us the love and care we need. But God's love is not static. It does not leave us in the same place where we began. As we grow in our relationship with Him, His love begins to stretch us, to refine us, and to call us to a deeper level of trust and maturity. The first thing we must understand about God's love is that it calls us to trust. Trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship, and the relationship we have with God is no different. At first, trusting God may feel easy, even natural. We come to Him as children, eager for His embrace, eager to receive His blessings, and eager to feel the peace that comes from knowing that He is near. But as we mature, we will encounter times when God's love seems hidden. There will be seasons of silence, times when we feel distant from Him, and moments when it seems like our prayers go unanswered. It is in these moments that our trust in Him is truly tested. We must understand that God's love is not about giving us everything we want in the moment. It is not about fulfilling our every desire or answering our prayers in the way we expect. Instead, His love is about growing our faith, teaching us to trust Him in the moments when we cannot see the way forward. Trust in this context is not based on what we can see or feel. It is rooted in the character of God, who is faithful even when we cannot perceive His presence. It is a trust that holds firm even in the midst of uncertainty, knowing that God is working for our good even when we cannot understand how. As we trust God, we are invited to let go of our need for control. This is one of the most difficult aspects of growing in maturity. We live in a world that values control, that teaches us to manage every aspect of our lives, to secure our own future, and to take matters into our own hands. But God's love calls us to release that control, to acknowledge that we are not in charge, and to trust that His ways are higher than our ways. This is the essence of faith, believing in God's goodness even when life is difficult, trusting in His plan even when it seems unclear, and letting go of our own desires for instant gratification in order to wait on His perfect timing. God's love then teaches us that trust is not just about receiving from Him. It is about learning to surrender to Him. We must trust not only in the blessings He gives, but also in the process He leads us through. This process often includes hardship and struggle, but it is in these times that our trust grows deeper. We learn to lean on God more fully when we face challenges. We learn that He is faithful even when we do not understand why things are happening the way they are. And as we trust Him, our faith matures, our relationship with Him deepens. We move from a place of simple dependence to a place of unwavering confidence in His ability to lead us through whatever circumstances we face. This brings us to the second aspect of God's love, a call to maturity. Maturity in the Christian life is not simply about time or age. It is not about how long we have been believers or how much Bible knowledge we have accumulated. Maturity is about how deeply we trust God, how well we rely on Him in times of trial, and how faithfully we seek to live according to His will. God's love does not want us to remain as spiritual infants, constantly seeking comfort and answers, never growing in our ability to endure hardship or persevere through difficulty. Instead, His love calls us to grow up, to develop the spiritual maturity necessary to navigate the complexities of life with grace and faith. Maturity in the Christian life is marked by a deepened relationship with God, characterized by trust, obedience, and an increasing ability to discern His will. As we mature, we begin to recognize that God's love is not about us getting everything we want, but about us becoming more like Christ. The Apostle Paul speaks of this in Romans 8:29, where he writes, "For those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son." God's ultimate purpose for us is not to fulfill our desires, but to transform us into the likeness of His Son. This transformation requires maturity. It requires us to move beyond the childish desires for ease and comfort and to embrace the discipline and challenges that lead us to greater Christ-likeness. There is no shortcut to maturity in the Christian life. It is a process, and that process often involves suffering, trials and setbacks. The writer of Hebrews tells us in Hebrews 12:11, "For the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." Maturity, then, is a fruit of discipline. It comes through the challenges we face, the lessons we learn, and the perseverance we develop through the trials God allows. God's love does not shield us from difficulty. Rather, it uses difficulty to produce growth. It is through the struggles and hardships of life that we are refined, that our faith becomes stronger, and that our character is shaped into something that reflects the image of Christ. Maturity also involves learning to love as God loves. As we grow in our relationship with God, we begin to see others through His eyes. We learn to love with selflessness, to give without expecting anything in return, to forgive without keeping score. We are called to love those around us, not based on what they can do for us, but because God loves them. True maturity in the Christian life involves growing in the ability to love others sacrificially, to seek their good even when it costs us, and to serve them without expecting recognition or reward. As we trust God and grow in maturity, we begin to experience a deeper peace, a more profound sense of purpose, and a greater joy in knowing that we are living in alignment with His will. God's love calls us to trust not just in His ability to give us what we want, but in His ability to shape us into who He created us to be. It calls us to maturity, to move beyond the superficial desires of our flesh, and to embrace the deeper, more lasting rewards of walking with Him through the trials and joys of life. When we respond to God's love with trust and maturity, we begin to experience the fullness of the life He has called us to. We no longer seek only the temporary pleasures of this world, but we seek to live in a way that honors God, to walk by faith, and to love others with the same sacrificial love that He has shown to us. This is the call of God's love, the call to trust Him with all of our hearts, to surrender our will to His, and to grow in maturity as we follow Him day by day in obedience and faith. God's love is not a love that simply comforts us in our weakness. It is a love that strengthens us in our weakness, that calls us to rise above our circumstances and to trust Him fully. It is a love that matures us, that teaches us to depend on Him completely, and that shapes us into the people we were always meant to be. It is a love that challenges us to grow, to trust, and to live out the fullness of His will for our lives, even when it is difficult, even when we don't understand, and even when the path ahead seems uncertain. But this love, this deep, transformative love, is the love that calls us to true and lasting peace, joy, and fulfillment.